Hey guys, this is an updated video with easier techniques on how to replace your lower control arms. Let's get this thing started. There we go.
It's definitely toast. But you cannot use this grease fitting just as you see fit. We actually have to take it apart.
Now for those of you guys who are new to this channel, my name is Carl, and this channel is dedicated to all things mods, DIY, and engineering for your second and third gen Tacomas. So make sure you smash that like and subscribe button already, guys. Do it now.
Come on, do it. Lay it on right here, do it. Do it.
We have a bunch of new products at the store, so make sure you check them out. Link in the description below.
We'll start with removing the skid plate. It's all 12mm bolts. Two 19mm bolts at the bottom of the steering knuckle. And it'd be good to take our brush, just brush off all the crud. As you can see, there's a lot of crud there from all the mudding. Then we'll hit those threads with a little bit of liquid wrench, let that soak for a bit. And we can take our 19mm and then just undo that lower shock bolt. And we'll undo it all the way so it comes off. All right, similarly, we'll brush the threads here, liquid wrench as well, and then undo this with our 24mm socket. Here we're at the rear of the lower control arm. Similarly, get rid of all the crud, liquid wrench, 21mm socket. And here we'll take our pin punch and then just drive that bolt outwards. And just keep in mind, guys, I do have Dobinson's greasable bolts. So at least these bushings and all these parts can last a little bit longer. So just keep that in mind if you're doing this work, because your socket sizes might not be the same as mine. All right, so the technique here for the front will be similar. I'll drive this out. I'll punch it back actually a little bit so we can get this piece out. This is basically like the part of the cam bolt to allow the thing to be aligned properly. And we'll drive this back out. See this? It does interfere with that CV. So there is a sleeve that needs to be driven out on this too. So we'll just take a pin punch and basically punch it out from the back. That allows that bolt to be angled downward a little bit more so it can come off from the bottom. And I'll also put that cam portion, push that back in a little bit just like that. So now I'm going to be punching in that sleeve. Now this you really only have to do if you do have the greasable bolts. Actually just pull this side down and out just like that. Just like that. Clearances are definitely tight, guys. We can take that sleeve out now. Now this whole lower control arm can come right down. And as you can see, it's definitely much easier to do that. You don't have to struggle with rust, because what I did was I did put wheel bearing grease on these bearing surfaces. So just by doing that, makes your future life a lot easier. So here's that old lower control arm, and here's the new one. We'll have to transfer this bracket onto this new one. This one's upside down, just an FYI. So we'll take a brush. See, there's a lot of crud on there. Then we can take our needle nose pliers and then just undo this. Now it's on there well tight. Just take a pin punch and just drive it from the inside, punch it outwards. And it's almost out. There we go. Brush the rest of the crud off of there. Hit it with a liquid wrench.
So I'll pause this video here for now, guys. because if it is your first time doing this job, make sure you watch my first lower control arm video. Now I knew that this castle nut was going to come off fairly quick with my impact wrench, since when I did this replacement, I made sure to apply some anti-seize. And if you guys are doing this job for the first time, make sure you keep this lower control arm on the truck first and try to undo this castle nut as one of your first few steps.
And this, so you can see, is stuck. So another reason why it's good to have a press. So now we can take this lower control arm, set up on the press, and I'm actually gonna take the castle nut and just drive it back upside down on that ball joint, just slightly. We can just drive this down. See right there, castle nut upside down. I made sure this bracket is sitting flat here, and I did also make sure that this bracket is sitting as much as possible on this arbor plate. So it's just like that. Now this whole thing will drop. So I'm just gonna kind of hold it on this side here. This thing will pop and bang. There we go. Definitely much better than having to struggle with that screw style ball joint remover. Now we can remove that castle nut and move this bracket. Yeah, that's definitely toast. It's one of those things you do have to check once in a while because you don't want this thing catastrophically failing on the trails. All right, now we can prep all the surfaces of this bracket. So definitely be good to get all the grease out of there. And I'll just use my wire brush to get more of the stuck on debris surfaces down. And just like always, we'll take our anti-seize, just apply it on these surfaces here. Do the same thing on these bearing surfaces here. You saw how quickly the old one came off because of pre-planning like this. So no matter what, ball joints will wear out. The greasable ones will last a little bit longer. And in the end, if you do your own maintenance, much easier for yourself when it comes to replacing in the future. Now we'll take Newcastle nut out, put in this bracket, and actually let's put some anti-seize on this bearing surface as well. Doesn't hurt. Onto the surface, and just grab down the castle nut. And to double check that this is oriented properly, you see this? This is one of the, basically a backstop for the steering. So what happens is when you steer, this cup here will mesh, will basically hit this portion of the lower control arm to act as a stop for the steering. So that's good. You could hit it with a few ugga-duggas on the impact, so it's nice and snug. You will have to torque this, so really don't have to mash it too hard with the impact. So this is good. Wipe all this anti-seize off the bottom, and we can flip this whole thing upside down so I can show you the back side. Now it looks like Moog's new design, at least when I bought this the last time, didn't have this greasable ball joint. And it's nice, we do have this grease fitting here, but you cannot use this grease fitting just as you see fit. We actually have to take it apart, because if we use it as is, it's going to interfere with the CV. So we definitely don't want it like this. Here we take our 7mm wrench. Might be a little hard to do. I'm going to take my 9mm wrench and just hold it from the bottom like that. Then just undo that upper grease fitting. So we don't need this piece anymore. We just need this piece. Just cover that with a little bit of anti-seize and snug this down. It's not exactly the ideal situation for orientation because that steering knuckle will be basically interfering like that. And even if you have an angled grease fitting, you won't be able to get a grease gun in there. So I think the best time to grease it would be whenever you have to, like, let's say, remove a CV or anything that requires you to remove these two bolts from the steering knuckle. Now let's just top it off. A few squirts of grease. All that crap off. Now we'll just take our wheel bearing grease and then just grease the bearing surfaces here, here. Also do the outside here and here. I'll stick my finger in here. Grease up that interior. I'll also grease the bolts too, so we have a nice amount of grease on these surfaces. All right, same thing with this forward end. So similarly, we'll prep these surfaces here. First, I'll wipe them down. Get much of the grease out. And there's still a lot of old dry grease in there. And the brush all of this crud out of there. And make sure you're wearing your safety glasses because you'll definitely get a bunch of that stuff in your face. Again, wiping it down. And then we'll take our wheel bearing grease and only put it on the inside here. You'll see why. Here we got all the hardware for that inner portion of the lower control arm. So next would be to just wipe off all the old grease and then just wire brush all the crud out of there. Now we can hammer in this lower control arm, and I'll focus on just getting this forward end in first so we can get that one bolt in. Using a rubber mallet to basically keep the finish getting too jacked up. See how it just nicely slides because of the wheel bearing grease. There we go. Just like before, I'm gonna aim with putting this forward bolt in first. Carefully tapping it in. Past that CV. That's good. I'll get as far back as possible before hitting the CV. There we go. And that's it. We'll do the same thing towards the rear. Yeah, that's good. Now, the reason why I do have the bolts going from inside to the outside is so that when we take them out, we can basically use an impact wrench on the two ends and be able to pull them out really easy, because we won't be able to do that since the CV is in the way when you're trying to get the impact on this side. And with the cam bolts, you won't be able to undo the bolt. So that's why having the nut on the outside is better than, at least from my perspective, it's better than having it on the inside. All right, now let's see if we can get this ball joint portion to mate. with the steering knuckle there. Yeah, there should be enough movement from that ball joint. And this one, we'll have to compress the lower control arm to get that to set properly. There we go. I'm just hammering this in. Yeah, now the hole is essentially lined up there. You can get that hole to go in here. Let's use the pry bar to plug it. There we go. Slightly tapping it in. Use the threads to get it in the rest of the way. There we go. I'm just gonna drive in the nut from the back so that this one's completely secured. Next thing we'll do is basically apply some red Loctite on all these mating surfaces with the cams, because when I do wheel, all of these cam bolts end up getting bounced out of whack. So just by putting some red Loctite, at least it holds the alignment a lot better for a lot longer. So that's why I didn't put the wheel bearing grease there. Real generous with that one. And I know my initial alignment was basically to push this lower control arm as far outwards as possible, like that. Anti-seize. And obviously with any type of work, the key is being comfortable. That's why I'm laying down on this creeper. Let's help this a little bit. Do the same thing, the rear end. All right, so that strut is compressed and we can tighten down these bolts here. And these are 103 foot-pounds. Lower strut bolt, 19 millimeter, 61 foot-pounds. Ball joint castle nut, 24 millimeter, 103 foot-pounds. Yeah, it looks like it's just shy from the access hole for the cotter pin, so I'll back it up just a tiny bit. Let's drive that new cotter pin inside and just bend it in place. Snip off the excess. Now let's torque down these steering knuckle bolts to 19 millimeters to 118 foot-pounds.
The cam bolts from Dobinson's, the wheel bearing grease, and all the tools and materials used in this video will be linked in the description below. Now I'll wrap this video up, guys, by answering a few questions that you guys might ask. And the first one being the fact that I replaced the whole lower control arm assembly instead of just the ball joint. And for me at the time, getting the lower control arm assembly versus the ball joint was only a $50 difference. And I thought that was well worth it since I'm basically getting fresh metal there. And on top of that, I'm getting new bushings at the frame side. And that was well worth the work, since replacing those bushings is a big pain in the friggin' ass. And if you guys have any further questions in terms of techniques or further details on other work, please leave them in the comment section below as well. I'll do my best to answer them, and hopefully this was very useful to you guys. So I guess that's it for now, guys. And until next time, peace out. Because when I did the first replacement for this, I did apply some anti-seize. Alright, boy. Interrupting my video, boy. You're interrupting my video.